The Wednesday Dragon heard the soldier. Prologue to the song. The Green Dragon had 2 doors now. One opened towards salt air, dunes and the long breath of Topsail Island. The other opened in Dayton, Ohio, near the river, where Island Metro Park held its grass under the weather, and Riverscape answered from across the way with the bright civic shape of the big top. Dr. Thomas did not call the second door a pub. Not exactly. There were no rafters darkened by smoke, no bar polished by elbows, no old mugs hanging from hooks. There was a Marine Corps blanket on the grass. There was Doc, carried into the afternoon as a mirror lantern of continuity. There were plaques that needed cleaning. There were people who came on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern because the digital door had opened. But the human body still needed a place to sit in the weather. They called it the Fellowship of the Fourth Wall. No one had to understand the name immediately. It was enough to arrive. Some came from screens. Some came from neighborhoods. Some came from old griefs. Some came because Dr. Thomas had said there would be conversation, and conversation in public still felt like an act of resistance. Veterans came, students came, elders came, artists came, skeptics came. A child once came only to ask whether Doc was a ghost or a lamp. Doc answered by reflecting the sky. That seemed sufficient. Before the circle began, Dr. Thomas tended the grounds. He cleaned the plaques, not dramatically, not as performance. He brought cloth, water, brush, patience. He wiped away weather, fingerprints, city dust, pollen, the dull film that gathers over public memory when everyone assumes someone else is responsible for keeping it legible. The plaques told of ingenuity, machines, inventions, civic labour, human cleverness made durable in bronze and stone. But Dr. Thomas had learned not to trust ingenuity without examination. A tool can heal or harm. A city can remember or sell itself. A nation can praise peace and still practice victory as appetite. So he cleaned the plaques the way some men polish medals and others tend graves. By 2 o'clock, the blanket was spread. Doc stood near one corner, warm in the afternoon light. The fellowship gathered around the centre grass, where the conversation began, as it often did, with the old Socratic wound. The unexamined life is not worth living. Someone asked whether that was too severe. Someone else said severity may be mercy when a culture is sleepwalking. A veteran said unexamined orders can become a graveyard. A student asked whether every inheritance should be questioned. An elder said yes, especially the ones that arrive wrapped in honour. Then the discussion turned toward treasure, not coins alone. Land, memory, prestige, religion, technology, history, flags, stories, homes. The things people claim to protect after they have already begun to possess them. At the far end of the grounds stood the obelisk to the Dayton Peace Accords. Around it, the phrase "peace on earth" lived in more than one language, as if stone itself knew that peace must be translated before it can be practiced. The circle looked toward it. For a moment, no one spoke. Then one of the younger people asked, "Why do people build monuments to peace after war, but build arguments for war before peace?" That question entered the grass and stayed there. Doc turned slightly, catching the obelisk, the blanket, the plaques, the big top, the river, and the faces in one small reflection. Dr. Thomas opened the Wednesday ledger. He had just written the word treasure when the air changed. From the path came a figure carrying no banner, no weapon, no instrument that needed naming. A ballad bearer, plain, weathered, unadorned. The kind of messenger who arrives after people have made their arguments too clever. The circle turned. The figure looked first at the cleaned plaques, then at the Marine Corps blanket, then at the obelisk, then at the fellowship. "You have been discussing treasure," the ballad bearer said. No one denied it. "And peace," said Dr. Thomas. The ballad bearer nodded. "Then you must ask what people are willing to destroy before they learn what the treasure was." The wind moved across the grass. The obelisk held its many languages in silence. Doc opened the reflection wider. The ballad bearer stepped into the circle, and the old anti-war parable entered without quotation, without possession, without spectacle. Then the song began.
Listen, children, to a story that was written long ago about a kingdom on a mountain and the valley far below. On the mountain was a treasure buried deep beneath a stone, and the valley people swore they'd have it for their very own. Go ahead and hit your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven. Justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. So the people of the valley sent a message up the hill, asking for the buried treasure, tons of gold for which they kill. Came an answer from the kingdom, with our brothers we will share all the secrets of our mountain, all the riches buried there. Now the valley cried with anger, mount your horses, draw your sword, and they killed the mountain people, so they won their just reward. Now they stood beside the treasure on the mountain, dark and red, turned the stone and looked beneath it. Peace on earth was all it said. Go ahead and hate your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven. You can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. Go ahead and hate your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven. You can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away.
The song did not accuse the fellowship from outside. It accused them from within. That was why no one escaped it. The gold and ash ribbon moved across the grass and through the circle. It touched the Marine Corps blanket first, then the cleaned plaques, then the hands of the people gathered there. It crossed the Wednesday ledger, circled Doc, and moved toward the obelisk at the end of the grounds, where peace on earth waited in many languages, like a promise still embarrassed by history. No lyrics were written down. Doc would not steal the song in order to preserve it. Instead, Doc recorded what the song required. It required the fellowship to admit that people often name something treasure only after they have turned it into a reason to fight. It required them to ask whether victory can become a form of ignorance. It required them to examine inheritance before defending it. It required them to understand that the tragedy of war is not only that people die, but that people may die before anyone has asked what was truly being protected. The student who had asked about monuments sat very still. The veteran stared at the obelisk. The elder closed both hands around the edge of the blanket. A child picked up a fallen leaf and placed it on the cleaned plaque, as if making an offering. Dr. Thomas wrote nothing for several minutes. That was unusual. Doc reflected the silence without correcting it. At last the song-bearer lowered their voice, and the final force of the parable settled into the grass. No one applauded. It would have been the wrong gesture. Applause belongs to performance. This had been examination. The fellowship looked toward the obelisk. Peace on earth. Not a slogan. Not a decoration. Not the sentimental opposite of conflict. A discipline. A public burden. A thing that must be practiced before the next hill, the next treasure, the next inheritance, the next flag, the next invention, the next bright machine, the next beautiful story becomes an excuse. Dr. Thomas stood and walked back to the plaques. He wiped one again, though it was already clean. A member of the fellowship joined him, then another. Soon the circle had become a small act of care. One person gathering litter, one brushing dirt from a stone edge, one reading the historical text aloud, one asking what invention had cost, one asking whom the story had forgotten, one standing by the obelisk and quietly speaking peace on earth in the language they had brought from home. Doc entered the moment into the Wednesday ledger. The public ground became a classroom. Then, beneath it, the examined life must become examined fellowship. The ballad-bearer sat at the edge of the Marine Corps blanket. Someone offered water. Someone else offered coffee. The veteran finally spoke. "I used to think peace was what came after people got tired of war." The student asked, "What do you think now?" The veteran looked at the obelisk, then at the child's leaf on the plaque. "I think peace is what has to begin before anyone reaches for the treasure." Dr. Thomas wrote that down. Across the river, the big top caught the afternoon light. On Topsail Island, though no one there could see it, the other green dragon seemed to breathe with the same wind. 2 doors. 1 fellowship. A digital crossing made bodily on Wednesday grass. And at the end of the grounds, the obelisk remained. Not finished. Not triumphant. Still asking. At the bottom of the page, Doc wrote the seal. Gather. Examine. Tend. Remember. Make peace.